for all things Halloween. This is Hauntformer, and as you can tell, today we're going to be talking about not Bride of Chucky, but the original Child's Play. So, this movie is actually probably up there with some of my favorite horror movies. Now, there's a few issues that I will talk about as to why I prefer actually Child's Play 2 over the original, but we'll get there in a second. Basically, Child's Play is about this doll that is taken over by Charles Lee Ray, who is a serial killer who now is living inside of this doll and has to get his soul, basically, into this boy, Andy. So it definitely sets up for a very scary story overall. And I think they did a pretty good job of making this movie somewhat realistic, even though it is kind of a silly idea. But I think they pull it off pretty well. And as you know, Chucky is such a big name in the horror world that they definitely did a great job with this flick. Now, the issues I had with this movie is that you barely saw Chucky. Towards the end, you see him quite a bit, but about maybe 2/3 of this movie, you're not really getting any Chucky, which was a little disappointing for me. I think Child's Play 2 does a much better job of capturing the character and giving more of his personality, because by the end of this movie, you couldn't tell, was he funny, was he scary? It was kind of a mix of a lot of things. But overall, Child's Play is definitely a classic horror staple to watch around Halloween. If I could make a recommendation, watch Child's Play 2, but of course, Child's Play is definitely a classic. The only issue I have with this movie, really, there's a few issues, but one of the major ones is the profanity. I understand that Chucky is not the most sensitive of guys, but at the same time, I feel like they kind of overused any profanity that they even wanted to use. And besides that, the whole voodoo thing is definitely a little bit weird for me, but I guess they had to use that for the storyline. So overall, I'm going to give Child's Play a 4 out of 5 skulls. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to give it a thumbs up and watch the rest of Horror Week on Haunttober. And remember, as always, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.